Good afternoon or evening, speaking to wherever you are in the world. Welcome to week 6 of the Link to the Past Randomizer League Season 4. Got a great match for you today. Homemade beer of Swirly Brewing versus Walter the Fourth of NewSwagaJackson. NewSwagaJackson is a bit on the ropes playing for their playoff lives. So this should be exciting to see how they do here. Swirly Brewing is also very close to clinching and wants this win so they can clinch sooner rather than later. Either way, I'm Drossi. I'm here with my good buddy Zeruvian. How are you?
We're doing okay. We're doing okay. We're here to watch them open.
It's Tuesday, right?
Well, it's Tuesday, but that means it's my Sunday. But that's fine because
so you're
I can
well rested.
That's fine. I can sit back and relax and watch these two fantastic players show us what they got today.
Yes, Dr. Cerveza and Homemade Walt.
Does it sound like it doesn't sound like something you would order either of them?
So quickly guess, are we going to see a Link's House start or a Sank start?
I think we're going to see a split.
Most likely, honestly. I feel like that happens a lot.
I mean, sometimes Sank starting, you get your weapon to go ahead and do Hyrule Castle. It ends up working out nicer for the route later on. But if you get something in Link's House, which is all we're going to see here today, and well, never mind, we got nothing.
Well, as the late Yogi Berra said, a nickel ain't worth a dime anymore. There's
pretty early map check, yeah. Crystals, Eastern and Hera, red pendant sitting over on Desert, so hopefully we don't have to see that pendant collected in Desert today, Drossi.
I would hope not, especially, well, even if we have to go into Desert, it's likely that Lanmo won't have an item.
Well, we're not going to be worried about money going to Kakariko. That's a Tier 1 treat pull of a bounty of 80 rupees.
Yeah, that's a pretty good thing to farm anytime you need money. Uncle is clearly down for the count because he has 10 arrows sticking out of him. Hey, and you were saying about weapons.
Pretty nice to have. Not a full magic meter, though, so we're not going to see us chase that fire rod into Hyrule Castle just yet.
And Sanctuary has even less money than Link's House did. But yes, the Uncle routing definitely pays off. It's one fewer thing for later.
You're probably going to see both runners go ahead and hop into the forest here. See if anybody wants to see what's going on with the Lumberjack. Looks like a resounding no.
Yeah, a lot of runners will wait until they have boots to check. Because they figure, well, as long as I don't have boots, it's not in logic, so why bother?
Well, Beer's going to stock up on money, and it doesn't look like the forest has anything more than twigs today, which that doesn't make for much of a forest, to be honest with you.
Well, it is autumn, you know, when there's some storms, it takes some branches down.
Well, Walter doing something a little bit different. He wants to go ahead and do south to North Kakariko. Pretty good idea since, well, even though you have the money, you might want to hold on to it for later. So he's going to farm these 50-50 bushes. There's 2 of them right here at the Grove.
Well, Beer did a second tree pull, so he now has enough money to both buy bombs and pay bottle vendors, so he's set. And it looked like Walter intentionally killed that guard, so he can do another tree pull too.
Also probably trying to ascertain what some of the prize packs are for the guards and their related enemies here. Did see a heart, so nothing too exciting out of that prize pool. And also, speaking of hearts, that's a piece of heart sitting up on the race game.
How vanilla.
Why is that there? Why is that there? I've seen that there twice now.
Can we pick up entirely arrows before we pick up anything else?
You're go ahead and pick up bombs. That seems like a pretty good idea here. Now, Walter does have one bomb, so he can go ahead and check Chicken Hut before he goes to buy bombs. And we're going to see if that has anything for us, as Beer will show us. No, he's just going to bite the bullet and buy him up, and he'll get 20 rupees to go back up to 57 in just a second here.
That's interesting that he, went to that trouble. Oh, that is worth 100 rupees, that sword on Bottle Vendor.
Kind of plays back in.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Kind of plays back into what we talked about, Hyrule Castle now being something we can do with the Fire Rod, Dark Cross, and logic. With the sword, a lot easier to deal with than having to manage a magic meter.
Of course, if the small key is in front or in Dark Cross, that also means that we could be expected to go all the way to the back for a glove.
Could be. Could be. Could be something else back there, too. You might see a flute or a mirror or a bow for Eastern. You never know. So far outside of that, doesn't look like there's anything too exciting happening in Kakariko. Just that sword so far. But 5 more checks sitting right here that might change our minds.
I mean, the red meringue makes us able to check the stun prize.
Oh, the sword's going to be important, but I'm willing to gander. The progression is elsewhere, and I would imagine we'll see both players go ahead and hit South Shore next.
Yeah, Beer, of course, hasn't been down to the race game and library yet, though we know there's nothing there. Walter's probably close to saving and quitting, unless he decides to continue up to the Lost Woods. Nope, save and quit. Oh, right, he did the Lost Woods earlier.
Yeah, they both did Lost Woods. He decided to save and quit and do South to North. Not something you usually see players do. A lot of the times, if I'm going to do something like that, I'm expecting to go up the mountain afterward, especially if you get Dark World access. It gives you all kinds of options, but in this case, our progression's nowhere to be found just yet. And well, Beer's gonna get his vanilla piece of heart here.
Yeah, often when CAC's empty, runners will just blind do race game, but doesn't pay off this time.
It's a little bit of gambler's fallacy here.
Oh,
I'm not sure if I like seeing that sword there, Drosy.
Yeah, next thing you know, a lamp will show up and we'll be expected to do Aga.
A little too early for that. Too many checks in front of our faces right now. You got 5 just sitting east over at Mini Moldorm Cave, and after that, then the pickings get a little slim.
Yeah, then you start thinking like Saha's Hut, or doing Escape. Ooh, and Walter's going for a Gina.
That's something a lot of runners like to do if they want to split their South Shore route. Go ahead, take the dam, and then come on over here and get this seldom gotten Sphere 1 check. You never know if something of importance might be hiding here. It's a trendy last location spot because of how out of the way it is.
Looks like Beer's thinking the same thing because he skipped dam, which means that he probably wants to route it together with the Gina.
Yeah, he went for the density, so let's see if there's... Oh, hello, mirror! Okay. Pretty good start. $500 allows him to go ahead and do some Never mind. No fake flippers today.
Yeah, that puts Zora in logic, and we have the money for it.
And looks like a hard skip of Ice Rod Cave and the dam for now. Pretty aggressive routing by Homemade Beer. He's going to go ahead and chase these flippers right to their logical destination. Oh no, not a shovel on the island.
And it'll just take Dark World access to get, like, we could go beat Aga now and get that shovel.
Well, Walter can, but right now...
Oh, right.
Beer doesn't have the sword out of the dam, so it's going to be a little while before Aga becomes a thing, and it's not in logic without the lamp regardless.
You're also skipping Hobo.
That's one you see a lot of players do if they're planning on walking over to Pod, for example, not having a flute to get over to Pod, or mid Dark World access. He'll swim over to Hobo and mirror back. Speaking of the flute,
well, easy enough to get back to Ice Rod Cave.
yeah,
So yes, that
you know, I'd be
that
worried
makes-
about the mountain now.
that makes Dam really easy to check. That makes Agena easy to check. Huge mobility improvement.
The only problem with the play with the mountain right now is we don't have a way to go to the east side of the mountain. Right now we can do Crystal Hera and whatever's waiting on the old man, which is out of logic without the lamp, but we really don't care about the lamp on this mode.
And if a book shows up, we can pull Ether Tablet. Maybe that's what the Master Sword's for.
So we're going to go ahead and toot that flute. Walter's going to show us what beer has skipped in Ice Rod Cave. Hopefully nothing too important, although it's still easier to get back to. It's another sword! Can you say free seed?
Yes, 9-minute tempered. And remember, beer just needs to flute to 7 and flute to 8 to get those 2 swords. I have to imagine we'll do those checks at some point.
I don't think he'll be putting on... At least one of those swords are going to get collected before too long here. There's no way you put them off for too long. Now, Walter's going to get to see his shovel, and he's probably looking at it and staring at it and going, "You're not getting picked up till later." You're probably not getting picked up at all, honestly.
I mean, depends what we're looking like when we get Dark World access. It is relatively close to things, and as soon as we get Dark World access, it's in logic. Oh, and we are going to see the hobo on Walter's side, too.
It's a little polarizing check. Some players will swim up to it and be happy for it, and some players will be like, "I'll get that later. Hopefully it's nothing important." Hubble's one of those checks that are faster to get when you're water walking or coming over to pod. So a lot of the times you just see it skipped entirely until late on, until it's like near your last location. Looks like we got some continuing divergence, Drosy.
Yeah, Beer is following that flute up the mountain. Of course, the old man himself is out of logic. And do we think Walter's actually going to dip Eastern, or is he just going to check Saha?
Hard to say. It really depends on what's hiding back here. If you get a bow, you absolutely do Eastern here.
Well, sure, it's a crystal.
Fortunately, the treasures in the back of the hut are about as useful as you could probably imagine them being.
Yeah, so the thing about homemade beer is that he is a very strong believer in following whatever the last progression item you got is.
Is that 300 in and out of Spectacle Rock Cave? That's what, our third 300 already? What
Someone left their treasure hoard there.
That's a lot of money sitting on the mountain. Here you go. We got a green pendant pod, another pendant on ice, 5-6 sitting in Skull Woods and Turtle Rock, so we know where the ice rod can't be today.
That's true, and we know that fire rod is going to be very necessary. Now, interesting question. Are we going to get locked out of Hera?
I wouldn't say locked out is a situation here. With that fire rod in hand, you're
Oh,
going
fire
to
rod, sorry, I forgot. Right.
Oh, hello! Betcha he's happy to see those.
Yeah. Okay, so now what do you do if this isn't the big key?
It is a crystal, so there's no reason not to go ahead and take care of it. But it is the big key, so you're going to take care of it anyway.
He was clearing out the enemies, it seemed, in preparation for Hera potting, and then realized he didn't have the hook shot. Anyway, Walter's going to get some expensive explosives, but he will get his flute, and we'll see what he does with it. Almost certainly go up the mountain because he's checked the stuff that Beer skipped down below.
Yeah, so far the seed is hard pointing to mountains, so I wouldn't be surprised if we have something waiting for us in Bonk Rocks.
And now you might also check Lumberjack, especially because it's starting to point to Aga.
Don't even say that, Rossi. Well, for Beer, it's like you're still a lamp away either way. That's the second item in Hera, so the answer is not going to be here, but we'll go ahead and pick up our crystal while we're here. Get it out of the way for later.
Well, I mean, as you said, it could be bonk rocks, especially given, Beer's tendency to always follow the progression. I guarantee you that's where he's going next.
And don't sleep on the Sphere 1 check sitting in Eastern Palace, but neither of these runners have stepped into Hyrule Castle yet either.
Right. And as we discussed at the beginning, that could be what the fire rod's pointing to, logical access to the back.
Yeah, it all depends on where that key happens to be sitting. If the key is sitting in the front, the back's in logic regardless. If the key is in Dark Cross, the back's still in logic. Fire rod, torch logic makes that happen.
I would bet Walter's going to have a much faster Moldorm fight here.
You think maybe.
Probably
something about
not
a
getting
two-sword
in
advantage
Storm.
here. Still very well executed by Homemade Beer, having a fighter sword and boots. Kind of vanilla. Actually, almost purely vanilla at 6 hearts.
But no shield.
Chat aptly pointing out, anything can happen if you get bounced off of Hera. You get bounced down Hera's 5-hole there if Moldorm decides he wants to play a little pinball with you. Alright, so Beer is going to go ahead and check Ice Rod Cave now. And I would imagine he's going to get the other checks out of the way. These being faster now with the boots, you kind of don't leave them behind.
Well, he'll be happy to see his Master Sword. If a bit late. Oh, he'll probably water walk to Hobo now. As Walter climbs the mountain. Yeah, so I mentioned earlier briefly about these teams like being in the middle of a playoff race. Swirly Coin Brewing is currently 3rd, and NewSwagaJackson is currently 5th in a very tight division. The top 4 teams make the playoffs. So they're both very much on the bubble right now.
Yeah, one super tight Kakariko division between the top 5 spots, a game or less separating each rank. Skulled Kids, of course, have already punched their ticket to the playoffs. Mogliacci right behind them by 2 games. Swirly Coin Brewing behind them by 1 game. So a win here from Homemade Beer would actually make things a little comfortable moving forward. But there's plenty of game left. There's still a total of 4 races left in the season, so anything can happen here.
Yeah, and as you were saying, Mogliacci has almost clinched, and Waffle House Drive-Thru is almost mathematically eliminated. So really what we have, most likely, is Swirly Coin Brewing, NewSwagaJackson, and Shacktool's Digging Game fighting for 2 playoff spots for 3 teams. Shacktool's Digging Game already split with NewSwaga, and split with Swirly Coin. So if Swirly Coin and NewSwaga split with each other too, things get very interesting. Though thanks to NewSwaga's tie, we don't have to worry about the likelihood of tiebreakers.
Yeah, tie making things very interesting here. Not something you see very often in this league. Ties, of course, being within a second of a finish time. And then you give it a retime, and if they're still within a second, it gets recorded as a tie. Both teams get 2 points.
Yeah, and it came down to frames when we retimed it.
Ooh, that's a close race.
Yeah. It was considerably less than half a second difference.
Gonna see if Bonk Rocks has any present for us, and within this chest, you get yourself a Moon Pearl. Okay. Don't panic just yet. Still got Hyrule Castle and Eastern that could be harboring a glove and or a hammer. And open up a few other checks for our runners to have a gander at. Hookshot or hammer gives us the 8 checks that are on East Death Mountain. So anything could happen here still.
Ether.
That's not something you want to see. You don't know if you need that or not, and especially with both of the medallion entry dungeons being crystals, it could be pointing to being a straight-up Agaseed later on.
And now Homemade Beer is doing the eastern area. I wonder if he'll actually go into Eastern or if he just wants to quickly do the Saha checks, because I think Escape is probably a better play than Eastern. Just because the Fire Rod hasn't pointed to anything yet. Oh! Hello, Moon Pearl.
Yeah, that's what we saw Beer pick up in Bonk Rocks, so...
Oh, I missed that. It's not on his tracker.
And the divergence appears to be over. We're both going to Hyrule Castle now, which is a pretty spicy call. With the mirror in hand, you might even check out Dark Cross first.
Yeah, we're really down to this or... Eastern. And... I mean, Eastern's questionable.
At this point, I think what you're really looking to find is a way to get to West Dark World. Or a way to get more checks in Pod, because it looks very much like this will be an Agassiz with the lamp showing up somewhere. Alright, so it is very much not a situation of the key being in the map chest. In fact, the map was in the map chest. Go figure.
And Beer is following logic. Walter is seeing if there's anything he can get out of logic here. I bet either there's progression in Dark Cross or there's a small key in Dark Cross and somewhere else in the castle has progression. Hello, progression.
There
small
it is.
Key in Dark Cross incoming.
This is actually not terrible for Beer, though, because he is going to have these checks done and out of the way. Without the glove, not knowing where our gloves are just yet, if he gets a glove back here, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and with the mirror, he can just immediately go back to start. It's not too bad.
So that's the thing for Walter. He can do the very same thing here, and probably will. And there he goes. So we'll get to see him go all the way to the back. Again, with Fire Rod or Torch Logic, it is very much expected by the game for you to go through these dark rooms with that Fire Rod. To get your key in Dark Cross, though. Put everything into play. Isn't key logic fun?
Yeah. There's our first bottle, too. And... Okay, we have Dark World access.
Yes, we do. And suddenly, Aghanim is no longer something we're worried about until that ether shows up on either Turtle Rock or Myers' doorstep. We saw Beer check the Lumberjack. I don't know if I saw Walter go up there and have a gander, too.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think he fluted right after getting the Moon Pearl. But, yeah, I feel like you do Skullwoods and Thieves Town because they're both full clearable crystals after this.
Well, absolutely. Skullwood's also being that coveted 5/6. Turtle Rock, the other 5/6, again, as we mentioned earlier, nothing that can really be of any importance at Pyramid Fairy for one of those two dungeons. However, if that's not the medallion we need, there might be another one sitting in Pyramid Fairy. Now, that's among a number of other things you might be waiting to see here. Because we don't know where the hookshot is. You see a crystal there on Swamp as well.
Yes. Could be a vanilla hookshot for all we know.
Perish the thought, Drosy.
Worse things have happened in Rando Seeds.
Alright, looks like Homemade Beer is going to flute. Let's see if this is to Kakariko or to 4. He is going to join Walter. No, actually, well, that's a miss flute. And those happen. I like to say, raise your hand if you've never fluted to the same spot before. So I've done that. You know, flute from 3 to 3, flute from 6 to 6. It's like, okay. Whoops. All right, we are going to see the sick kid give us more explosives. I always wonder what he's doing with those.
I was a little bit surprised Beer decided to do it then rather than in the course of Village of Outcasts.
You kind of save yourself a pair of mirror transitions. I think it's almost even with the boots here.
But yeah, one interesting thing about the runner's divergence in Hyrule Castle was we did see that breaking logic and doing the front all at the same time does save you a little bit of time, doesn't save you a huge amount of time.
One thing we didn't see our runners do is pick up that shovel that's sitting on Lake Hylia Island. We might see that picked up later on as we go more to the eastern side, check out Hype Cave and go over to Pod. Right now, it looks like that check's not on our players' minds here.
Well, I mean, you've got 2 clearable crystal dungeons. You do that, and then you think about what you want to do next.
Yeah, what's the philosophy we say these days? A, B, C, D, always be clearing crystal dungeons. And that is what 2 runners are going to do. Walter with a little bit of a step on homemade beer at the moment, but not too much, and I wouldn't say that either runner has much of an advantage right now. Fitting around with the same kit, and the same equipment, and the same knowledge, with one very interesting exception.
What is the exception? I've already forgotten.
Beer has the knowledge of ether on Agalith.
Oh, right.
Of course, Tempered Sword, doesn't matter what your magic meter looks like coming in here. This is going to be a pretty easy moth fight, provided you don't get pinballed around on the spikes.
So Walter dropping into the moth. Charging the moth.
And Moth wanted to sit up in the corner, but comes out to play, and that's where things get more fun for Walter. We can land another swing or two. We should be seeing a dead moth. There it is.
For a burrito, so there is an item in the front. Actually, Walter did the bridge chest, right? I know Beer skipped it.
That I couldn't say.
Hey, and thanks for the raid, Scottish Brave in the bottom tier.
Yeah, Tandem Raids, welcome in. This is an invitational match. Swirly, Brewing, and NewSwagaJackson both vying for a playoff spot here in the Kakariko division. And as you can see, both players now have their first crystal. Second crystal, excuse me. Moldorm also had a crystal. Hey, it's the big key to Skull Woods. That's something you want to see, right?
Well, at least we did the back first, so now we just walk right in the front and check it.
Yeah, and you can play the odds here if you really want to, with the position of the keys in the front, knowing that there are 3 keys in the dungeon. I don't believe we picked any up to this point. That means they're going to be hiding out, and so are our items at this point. Yeah, with 3 keys still sitting in front, I think you play the odds here. Go ahead and do the front door entrance. Because key between either this check over here on the right side, which it is today, or if there's not one there, there's more than likely one in the big chest. And we'll see that setup. And Walter's going to check this as well. A bonus key. Okay.
Yay, keys. We're going all the way around.
And Beer wants to go ahead and get this the intended way.
Semi-intended way.
And a little bit of dancing on the ledge there. We'll see our first key for Beer, and he's going to just... I'd imagine he just opts to go straight left now with the mirror. He can go ahead and pick up that other check anytime he wants.
Oh, and Walter got the bow while we were watching Beer in such surprise do the vanilla way, and there's Beer's bow. So that's our progression there. Nothing on bumper ledge.
And I believe the call now would be to just, well, I was going to say dive right back into Village of Outcasts and have a gander at what's going on between the checks in the village proper and the 4 items we have in Thieves Town. So we can full clear with that hammer. Now, Walter, on the other hand, says, I'm getting these out of the way, because if I don't do these now, when am I going to do these?
Makes sense, especially if your plan is to go south after the village. Looks like Beer's thinking the same thing.
Well, they'll both be rewarded with everyone's favorite glitch stick.
Really, with how they're both doing this seed, it's basically going to come down to execution.
You know what I like seeing here just to make me kind of smile and laugh here, Drosy?
What?
Mitts. Oh, we'll get powder instead, which is also pretty nice.
Hey, now once we go to Vu, we can just mirror and just loop it into Smith Chain, really. The one thing we won't be able to loop into Smith Chain is the shovel check. Because both runners still left that sitting on Lake Hylia Island. It's always nice to go through that ghostly garden with boots and just bonk your way out of there.
Yeah, it's something I see more and more runners doing just to kind of make... The mirror portal is not really important as to where you place it, but you do save yourself a little bit of traversal time getting back around that little hedge there that blocks part of the entrance. And we're going to see Thieves Town right away from Walter. Also see whether or not the 4 items in here will point us in another direction. Palace of Darkness is looking rather enticing, even though it is a green pendant.
Yeah, it's also 6 items, including the green pendant. Ooh, and Cane of Burna in the chest game, which Walter skipped, but I imagine he'll do it right after Thieves.
I want to talk about things that are enticing now that Cane of Burna has put Spike Cave into logic for our runners.
Indeed it has. Probably going to wait until we get Mitts to go back to the mountain, but if Mitts are in Spike Cave...
Well, then I think we'll be waiting a little bit before we see them now, shall we? Nothing going on in the front of Thieves Town, as Veer will remind us here in just a moment. That big key in the 3rd check, as it does, it's right there waiting for us to grab it so we can go straight to the back.
So, think we'll find anything in the back? Think we'll find anything on Magic Bat?
Well, Magic Bat is intriguing here because it does require a mirror back to look at, which might actually play a little nicer for Walter. He hasn't done Sick Kid yet either. So we might see him finish up Village of Outcasts, mirror for those 2 checks, and then bounce on back however he chooses.
I just realized we can't actually do Smith Chain for all that because we don't have the mitts.
I was going to say, the one item I think I would probably just kind of scoff at here is if we see vanilla mitts in the big chest or down below. Those have been showing up quite a bit for me personally, and I look at it every time and just shake my head. I'd be more worried about seeing another fetch quest of sorts, maybe a book to go into desert here. Again, another pendant dungeon. I'm thinking about every possible bad scenario here.
So, of course, that's the key. Keeps the hope of vanilla mitts alive, right?
All I'm going to say is it better not be.
Why not?
Oh, I hate this game. Because now you're going to have everyone in chat calling me a witch. That does open up Smith Chain. We can actually go all the way down to Swamp Palace if we really want. Swamp Palace is another full clearable crystal for us here, but it is one that a lot of players like to wait until they can do in a go mode situation. Saves a lot of time because you don't have the ability. I wouldn't say ability here. Actually, you wouldn't have the need to check for anything else.
Yeah, this seed has really just been handing us stuff so far.
Yeah, pretty fast seed in terms of opening up things by progression. This does also allow us to have a look at what's going on with the Mire entrance, which is information extremely vital for the endgame of the seed. If it's Ether, then we do have a bona fide Agassiz.
And you gotta wonder where Lamp is in all this. It could be a lot of places is the problem. So I do think we'll be seeing the full Smith chain now, as well as Hype Cave. And then what? Do you try the shovel? Do you do Pod Eastern? Certainly Eastern before Pod.
You know, we're still looking for an Ice Rodder. I'd say we probably have a gander at what's going on at Turtle Rock. Information is the name of the game right now. Because not having any medallions, you kind of want to know what you're looking for, but at the same time, you want to go to what's dense, what you can clear. So I wouldn't be surprised to see our runners go ahead and do Smith Chain down and maybe pop into not Ice Palace, Swamp Palace here.
Or could flute to Mire, do Mire Shed and Checkerboard and check the medallion requirement. And now that we can do Smith Chain, we of course do Dig Game first, because you can't take the Smith on the Dig Game.
And if you do, then he will say, something is following you. I do not like.
Don't bring that thing in here.
That thing. I'm sorry, sir. It's not a thing. It is a Smith. And that is a thing, indeed. That is the Bugnet. It's just kind of a thing. Nice bit of safety if we need it. Walter says no.
Come on. Whatever happened to fluffing?
Such disrespect for the Bugnet. You owe the lazy kid an apology, Walter.
So apart from the all-important Bugnet and Homemade Beer's knowledge of Ether, we are basically synced up.
Yeah, we are within seconds of each other right now on the screen. Homemade Beer and Walter both taking these pegs and driving them into the ground with some well-placed hammer dashes. And then I would imagine we're going to see Magic Bat check by both players as well. More sticks. Is this the Village of Sticks today on both sides of the world? What's going on here?
Hey, we're not going to be short arrows. So now do you take Purple Chest in the Light World and skip Cave 45 and Stumpy, or do you take Purple Chest the slow way? Looks like Homemade Beer is going to take it the slow way, and so is Walter. So they have to walk, but we'll be getting Cave 45 and Stumpy checks.
Well, yeah, you get that K45 check because it's there. And you can also set up without having to add an extra mirror transition to go into Swamp Palace if that's what you feel like you want to do here. If not, you can always just go ahead and either save quit and check out what's going on the mountain, because we haven't seen either player do either side of the mountain just yet. Light or dark side of East Death Mountain. Rich full of checks here. 3 that we can't touch right now without that hook shot, though. That might be something that puts them away from going into Swamp as well, not having the hook shot. You don't want to do hookless Swamp on a pretty risky move early on here. We're only 30-something minutes in. So there's a ton to look at, and it all depends on what you're feeling on this seat. There's all kinds of options right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's fully completable Eastern, if you want to go the ABCD route. There's still that shovel.
You also have a fully completable pod, although albeit the logic does ask for a lamp. Again, wondering where that lamp is, not really caring in the end. All the lamp's going to do is tell you where your logic lies, and that's really not a bad thing. It's really not something terribly advantageous either.
And speaking of logic, we should remind everyone that with the Fire Rod, Armos Knights are in logic as long as the big key is not vanilla.
It does look like Beer is setting up to go ahead and turn the purple chest in, and as is Walter, and do Hype Cave afterward. Not really a bad move, and not planning on going into Swamp just yet.
Fetch quest time.
Luckily, that's a pretty easy fetch quest to actually go turn in with that flute. You can go ahead and jump off to flute point 2, drop off the mushroom, go off screen real quick, and boom. Instant item.
Beer takes advantage of that time to release the bee because he figures he'll be in the magic shop anyway. He's got a lot of money. Fill a bottle while he's there.
Better to have a full bottle and not need it than to need a bottle and not have it. And just like that, we are frames within each other again coming into Hype Cave here. Let's see if it lives up to its namesake today.
Beer bonked, and that let Walter catch up, and yeesh.
And every bonk does cost you 2 seconds in the long run. So clean movement is definitely a play-in, and you have a very, I wouldn't say convergent seed, but we have seen our runners go ahead and do a lot of the same checks in the later stages here. And this will be the shovel, and an accidental map poke from Walter is going to give Beer now the 2-second lead.
And, you know, these 2 seconds add up. Or sometimes cancel out.
Here's your flute to 6. I like this from Homemade Beer. Knowing that you have ether sitting around somewhere and the ability to go into desert, possibly knowing what you need to get into Mire would be important.
Hey, and we have divergence.
Yeah, Walter looks like he wants to see what's going on in Palace of Darkness. Also not a bad move. 5 items within, green pendant, and clearable at this point. And that is Bombo sitting on Mire, so that ether's still laying in wait in Lumberjack until we see if it's required to go into Turtle Rock.
So is the key under the doormat as it is wont to be?
No, but that's pretty nice sitting in Mire Shed. That would be the hook shot.
Now you do Swamp.
Yeah, now you feel like Swamp Palace is a good place to be. And that we're talking about, you know, minimum of 2 from go here. You need the Ice Rod to kill Trinex and whatever medallion. If it's Bombos to get into TR, we're looking for just that. We might need 2 medallions. Well, we might need that one even, so we're going to pick that up regardless of the knowledge. So Beer knows where 2 medals are already.
Oh, looks like Beer's doing Eastern and very intentionally not using the portal. Interesting.
This feels like an ABCD play to me. Beer's going to go ahead and get what he can out of Crystal Eastern and Lead Pod for if he actually needs to come back later. I like this too. You know you need to go into Eastern, and you have no idea what's going on in Pendant Pod. Pendant Pod, of course, also being the green pendant. Adding that 6th item to the equation, you can save that for as long as you want. If we see progression there on Walter's side, then it's not going to feel too good. We do see that it is bow locked. You get 50 rupees in the shooter room, meaning you have to come to this right side. Get at least 1 key. In this case, it is a pair of keys, so we'll see Walter go ahead and flip this switch, drop on, bonk on back, and probably go straight to the rear end of the dungeon, where all the fun stuff is. There's your 3rd key. So now having 3 keys, we'll drop back. We have the mirror, so it's nicer to route. And not wanting to leave anything behind, we'll check the big key location as well.
Yeah, just in case. It's almost 50-50 that there's an item in Big Chest. Could be a dungeon item, though.
Well, it's a key for a key, so there's also the shot that this might be a 5-key front. And
right, that's
I
why
have specific words that I would use for a 5-key front, and I can't say them on this stream, otherwise I would.
That's why I said almost 50-50, because it doesn't take into account the possibility of a 5-key front, which is what we have.
But we are going to see the back of the dungeon. Another key going up here would tell us that the big key is in Harmless Hellway. And
Meanwhile, I don't think Homemade Beer's gotten anything out of Eastern, has he?
Not just yet, but we did see that Armos lights are in logic with the fire rod, as the big key was sitting on the left side in the compass check.
Indeed, and it's probably a 50-50 check here. Ooh, Silver's in pod.
Silver's in pod, and yes, everybody, that is a bow-locked bow.
But if Beer never comes in here, I think the amount of time he saves by not coming in here. Oh,
I'm sorry, what? Okay.
Rule of fire.
Well, the logic is telling us that it wants us to go here, so let's see if there's something else sitting in Dark Maze we might need. You see that rule of fire race I called last night in the open league, Drosy?
Yes, about the bombos leading to, Fire Rod.
And now we should tell everyone where the bombos was.
Yeah, something I have never seen before. The bombos was in Crystal Roller Chest in Turtle Rock. The key layout was just right to get back to it without the Fire Rod. And then you had to take it into ice to get the Fire Rod.
Speaking of bombos, it's in the pod big chest. So Palace of Darkness required here for our runners, as that is the key required to get into Misery Mire. So now we're on the clock to see how long it takes for Beer to go ahead and check out pod, pick that up.
Yeah, because he specifically shut himself out of it. Like, it wasn't like he even took the portal and mirrored. He's just like, no pod for me.
Eastern Palace otherwise kind of empty, but we do get our fourth crystal on the side of Homemade Beer for Swirly Coin Brewing. And Walter will be picking that up in a moment, but he's going to have an easier Armos Knights fight here. I feel like there's no circumstance now in which Beer does not pick up those silvers because of where that Bombos medallion is hiding.
Yeah, that's going to be a laughable Armos Knights fight, but yes, Beer will absolutely have to go to pod, as you said. And he'll get his lamp, he'll get his silvers. I don't see why you would hammer Yump there.
Yeah, here comes that information play, and also this is the richest set of items that we have in the entire world to us right now. Homemade Beer is going to go and do a combination of East Death Mountain and Dark Death Mountain. Have a gander at what medallion is required for Turtle Rock. And you never know, Ross. You might see a free ice rod here, too.
Yeah, I was just thinking, though, I guess the main reason to do this before Swamp is in case you can get to go mode Swamp.
Yeah, the reason you put off Swamp Palace, despite it being the richest dungeon in the lower game, is it's also one of the slower dungeons to full clear in the lower game, especially if you skip left side and have to go back in. So the idea would be to enter the Swamp and Go mode and have to check literally nothing. Just grab the key and hook to the back.
You know what's interesting, though? Walter did not go to Helma King. That's a time investment, but it's also the green pendant. Oh, and you were right about the fire rod on Death Mountain because you've been right about everything. So Paradox Cave is kind of blue with the blue mail and the ice rod. Sorry, did I say fire rod? I meant ice rod.
You did mean the ice rod. I understood ice rod. And here's where things get really interesting. Now Beer can possibly go in and clear Turtle Rock if the entry is Quake.
That is true. That's kind of crazy.
And that's something in this situation, if you feel like Turtle Rock might have your answer. And also to kind of mitigate having to do an extra mountain climb later, you do that now, but only if you can get in.
But that then opens Pyramid Ferry.
Yeah, you're talking about possibly going down the rabbit hole here if you do that.
And, I mean, Walter hasn't been to Mire area yet, but depending on what Turtle Rock is, he could be in Go mode very soon.
That is true. And that's all Walter really needs is for Turtle Rock to say Quake and not Ether. And a visit to Checkerboard Cave would solve all of his problems.
Hey, if it says Bombos, then he's going to be in... Well, I guess he still needs to go to Meyer Shed and get the hook shot.
Yeah, if it says Bombos, that is going to be like the galaxy call of the seed is going independent pod. And chat was asking where Bombos was. It was in the big chest of Palace of Darkness, which requires you to get all 5 keys in front, go to the back to get your big key out of the rupee basement, and make your way through the dark maze, where the lamp is also in rupee basement. So it was clear at that point that the logic was drawn to put you in there and find something.
And a good reminder that the rupee basement is in logic with the fire rod.
That it is indeed. Something you see in open a lot is a lot of forgetting sometimes with the advanced item placement, that items do get placed into logic with the fire rod. Locations get placed into logic with the fire rod, as long as there is a torch in that room, with one notable exception. That exception being Castle Tower.
Right, because there are a few rooms in there without torches in them that are still dark. And
here's that moment of truth.
Oh!
We have an Aga seed, everybody. Strap in. Walter doesn't know that. Walter does not know where Ether is, and that could actually give Homemade Beer quite the advantage here. And it looks like he is going straight to Castle Tower. Oh man, this is gonna. I thought for a moment Walter was going to dance around that chest for a few seconds and just not pick it up. And I'm like, oh no, please don't.
So this seed is going to hinge on either Beer goes to Pendant Pod or Walter thinks to check Lumberjack.
Yeah, and a lot of times you might see a runner hard last location, that Lumberjack ledge. There's so much open right now. There is a ton open for Walter right now, and especially if he goes to get his ice rod. He might be thinking about going up to Turtle Rock, and it might actually take more time than is really necessary.
That said, Beer is going to have a go mode Meyer. Walter is going to full clear or close to full clear it. Depending where that big key is, that could make a difference.
Well, it's a little early to say yet, and also that Walter is going to have the lamp to make some of his dark rooms just that tiniest bit faster. And we'll see Beer do this fire rod Aga Tower climb and show us a little bit of that technique.
Yeah, the thing is, we don't really have other dark rooms besides this Aga Tower climb that to worry about, because Beer will have the lamp before Meyer since it's right by Bombos.
Yeah, and the only other one that's even any consequence here is going to be Turtle Rock, and that is highly predicated on whether or not Beer is planning on going right back up the mountain to go straight into TR, because he'll have to deal with Dark Platform Maze. But if you know the motions to get through it, it's really not that bad. And the thing on my mind right now, Drosy, is you might see both of these runners go ahead and try to full clear Swamp Palace, looking for what the other one has, but they don't know about.
That is entirely possible. Well, Walter's still looking for 2 things, though he doesn't know what Turtle Rock Medallion is.
And he does not know where the Ice Rod is, even though it is up for grabs in Paradox 5. Chad agrees with me. They expect both runners to go into Swamp, begging for that medallion to show up.
And we had a lot of keys up front in Meyer. I believe we've already found 2 out of 3 small keys, but still no big key.
Yeah, as soon as you see your 3rd small key, you know exactly where that big key is. And otherwise, it's going to be right here. So it is on the right side, more than likely. But it's still too early to tell. And Walter is going to have a look at the cutscene chest, just in case that the other key is sitting in the map chest on the right side.
Well, and it could be an item, because Walter's not in go mode. He's full clearing, so he figures between the possibility of the big key and the possibility of an item, you check this.
Oh, absolutely. Meanwhile, Homemade Beer with his Dance with Aghanim 1. I saw some guesses for how many of those blue energy ball attacks we will see from Aga. So far in 2 swings, we got nothing. The first one is always guaranteed to be an energy ball. That one is a blue ball. Now, the average, I'd say, is about 3 or 4. As soon as I say that, here comes the second one.
Well, at least we're not going to have the maximum 15. And there is an item. It was just bombs in the cutscene chest, but Walter can check an item off his list.
Pretty good key logic awareness for Walter. It tells you that the other key is either going to be on Vitreous or on the right side, and the other dungeon item just at large, either, you got 50-50 bit over here for what's what. So the big key is guaranteed to be right here in the map chest.
Yep.
And having both items already, he gets to go straight to Vidi, not caring where the compass or the...
You mean the map?
It is the map. We've seen the compass already.
The
Sorry, I'm
compass
talking
was
about map chest. I'm talking about map chest.
So that was 3. We had an exactly average Aga fight.
As one does, and Beer, having not already checked this, is going to go ahead and look at the 3 bombs sitting on Pyramid Ledge. I'm going to pick them up blind, actually. Oh, that's a mail upgrade, excuse me. Sorry, I'm seed bleeding just a little bit.
That was the strangest looking 3 bombs I've ever seen.
I mean, when you come in off a cross keys seed, and that's a check that you make more times than not. All right, with the red mail in hand, Beer is going to go ahead and what's your plan here, sir? Oh, you're going to go pick up that Ether Medallion. That's a good call. Yeah.
Good call to remember about that portal faster than saving and quitting.
Meanwhile, Walter showing us some spooky action in Misery Mire. Setting it up and doing it right, you get to save yourself a few precious seconds with every room there. And of course, that we do have no magic, but we do have silvers on the hands of Walter. So this Vitreous fight is about as free as you can make it without doing cave dashes with a gold sword.
So is Homemade Beer going straight to Turtle Rock now? Why, yes, he is.
I believe that he is. And he saw Ether on TR, and he's going to bank hard on TR with the Ice Rod and Paradox that TR has the progression he needs. We know it isn't. It's in Pod, and it's the one item he needs for Go. But as far as he's aware, Turtle Rock is a clearable crystal. It's the 5-6 that he's looking for, and he wants to take care of it sooner rather than later.
Honestly, since a Go mode TR doesn't usually save you that much time, it's not going to be horrible for him.
Oh, absolutely not, and especially since Walter not knowing where that Ether Medallion is kind of plays into Beer's hand a little bit here, because that gives Walter that much more that he might look at before he goes back to Lumberjack Ledge to see that this is, in fact, an Agassiz.
Except that he just messed up the block puzzle. No, you're going to have to reset it, Walter.
I don't think I've ever seen... And you can see that a lot where you might miss a mirror delete pretty much anywhere. I've seen people just block themselves out of one check in Mire Shed, or, it's way too easy to do.
Yeah, I've seen people get in Blindside.
Oh no. You ever see somebody accidentally hook into Blindside and soft lock themselves?
I've seen someone do that in Ice Palace, trying to get to the big chest.
Oof. That's no good. Alright, so Walter, I'm pretty sure, is probably going to check out Swamp Palace here.
So, there's not even that much of interest we can find here in Turtle Rock. Maybe a cape, maybe Butter Sword. Maybe all 3 shields?
Cane of Burning, of course, is going to help us go through this roller room without any problems whatsoever. Get an extra key for our efforts, and the big key. Look at God TR layout, Drosy.
Yeah, this could help Walter since he will be in Go mode when he gets here. Whereas Homemade Beer is going to have to suffer in Mire regardless because that big key was in Map Chest.
And here comes that full clear of Swamp Palace for Walter. And at 57 minutes and 43 seconds, everybody, we have our first shield.
Lovingly crafted by Fisher Price. Okay.
Speaking of things that you don't mind seeing, that's a cape and chain chomp.
Well, I was trying to name things that could be semi-useful to find in TR.
Luckily, we've already seen that Bumper Ledge is just, there's where I saw 3 bombs on Bumper Ledge. That's what I'm thinking of.
Some ledge had 3 bombs on it, and after a certain point, they become interchangeable.
Man, that is some molten lava if it's glowing gold like that.
Yeah, it seems even brighter than usual today.
And Beer wants a fairy, and he will go ahead and capture one for later use. Never know. Could be handy. You do have red mail and 12 hearts, so that fairy is just a little extra insurance in case things get super hairy going on here.
And both the Cane of Burna and the Cape as well. And like powder, and oh, there's the book. More Wild Goose Chases.
Boy, oh boy, that's something you didn't want to see Beer pick up here in Turtle Rock, is that book. Might make him start poking around for that Bombos medallion, places you really don't want to go. And to answer a concern from chat, no, Walter hasn't been to Paradox yet, so he's still got an ice rod just sitting there waiting to be grabbed. He will be able to come into Misery Mire, as we've seen already happen, and take care of that dungeon. But with Ether sitting on the doorstep for Turtle Rock, he's going to have to kill Aghanim before he can clear that dungeon.
But as soon as he discovers where Ether is, the clock is ticking.
Indeed it is, because he has basically everything else with that free ice rod in the path that he's going to need for go mode. And Beer right now still looking for Bombos, which happens to be in the big chest of Palace of Darkness. Pendant Pod, having our silvers, our lamp, and our Bombos medallion. Something he's going to have to make the commitment to go back to at some point. Otherwise, he'll be skipping out on go mode and digging around looking for the opposite medallion.
Yeah, and given his strategies, I doubt Pod is top of his mind, even if Swamp doesn't play out, because he always wants to follow the last progression, so he's much more likely to check Pyramid Fairy and tablets than to go into Pod.
And with that book in hand, that's the one thing you probably didn't want to see if you're a fan of Swirly Coin Brewing. At least coming out of TR here, you can do Ether into Spike Cave and get those out of the way here. But other than that, there's really not much that book's going to say that's a good thing for Homemade Beer. Meanwhile, Walter does take out Argus with a pretty smooth-looking Argus fight. He's going to grab his 5th crystal and go back in with the big key in the back. Make sure there's nothing hiding for us in the big chest. Or if he's also not done left side, we could see that as well.
I don't think he did left side.
And minimum 1 item from Gomo, do you think? He's thinking, well, I'm running out of places to check, so I better do left side here.
Right, well, he's potentially 2 items. I mean, we know he's 2 items from go mode. He probably realizes he's potentially 2 items from go mode. Of course, the small key's in the last chest on Laser Bridge.
Alright, well, Homemade Beer makes his run to Trinax, and Walter makes his run to the left side of Swamp. Let's give a shout out to these 2 runners as we pass the hour mark. Open Week is very much among us here. Things can go any which way. One of the faster, one of the easier modes to play in this game, but it is absolutely one of the more volatile modes as well, as we are seeing live on the screen here.
And while we're at it, let's shout out our tracker, Jinxie Girl, who has been dealing with a somewhat ornery tracking app tonight, so props to her.
As I say, we got expert tracking tonight. Jinxie, no stranger to the scene. She knows what's up, and she's been making sure we know what's up as long as that tracker agrees with us. Beautifully done, the double spin by Homemade Beer with the Tempered Sword. Trinax just kind of crumbles into a million tiny little pieces here.
Hey, 14 hearts! We've maxed out hard mode, right?
We sure have, Drosy, but I don't remember hard mode having red mail.
No, or silvers.
And shout-outs to 2 shields in Swamp Palace, by the way.
Yeah, so now Beer's having a good hard think. Does he want to do Crystal Swamp? Does he want to dip Pendant Pod? Or Pendant Ice or Pendant Desert? Or check the tablets or Pyramid Fairy?
Still think, going into Swamp Palace might be his next port of call here, just to get it out of the way. But I'd also be a little bit worried as to whether or not he's going to keep leaving Pendant Pod with its 5 items and very early accessible in Logic with the Fire Rod to get to the back items. You might be worried about where's the lamp? What do I need to do with the lamp? Just because the lamp logic is, it's lamp logic. It tells you where you want to go. Problem is, the lamp is where he needs to go.
Yeah, but Ether Tablet and Spike Cave make perfect sense. Both in Logic, you're up here.
And Spike Cave, too, is something that we've probably been thinking about for a little while with that Can of Burna sitting in the chess game in Vu. So that is going to be, he's going to clean up the mountain. Not by any means a bad call. Especially since this one check, if you don't do it now, it is hyper isolated.
So Walter is doing Super Bunny Cave before Paradox Cave.
What I think Walter might do here is he's going to set this up to have a look at what's on the island with a mirror back, drop down Spiral, and go back up Paradox. Actually, he wants to have a gander at what's the TR entrance, and that's going to be some important knowledge here on the seed.
Yeah, so he will find out that the Ice Rod isn't going to put him in go mode.
And that is only going to incentivize Walter to have more checks as he goes through.
Oh, sorry, I thought I saw Beer flute to 5. Wait a minute. He's fluting again. He might have intended, nope, 3.
He wanted to flute to 3 and fluted to 4 instead. This is going to be a ped read, Rossi?
That looks like it because he's done everything else up this way. There's no reason Bombos can't be on ped except that it's in pod.
That would be the perfect reason it can't be on ped. Now, that's going to tell him that these pendant dungeons are not necessarily required. However, 2 items in desert, 3 items in ice. If you had to pick one, which one would you choose? Green pendant pod.
I would hope so. He sure doesn't want to go into full clear swamp. And props to him for holding off on that. It happens to be the right call.
Yeah, he is hard committing, so far as we know, to not going into Swamp Palace. Now, this could be the Swamp Palace play. It could also be him digging at what he just finished, his 5-6 crystals, and going ahead to take care of Pyramid Fairy, which could be ended with a run to pod.
Let's see here.
And this could also be Bombos, is the last progression that Beer did pick up. Was that book in the lava chest of TR?
Yeah, definitely a Bombos play first, but if he's down here, chances are he's going into Swamp.
I'm not going to hold my breath, because, as we just talked about, he might be trying his darndest to skip out on Swamp until he's in go mode. And now he's whipping the mirror back out. This will be the Swamp play for Homemade Beer.
And Walter has picked up his Ice Rod, but he also knows this is not go mode for him. And now it's a question of when does he check Lumberjack? So your Beer, you're 1 item from go mode, as opposed to Walter, who was a bit farther. Like, if you're Beer, do you full clear Swamp or do you risk skipping stuff?
I think the meta play here and the play that you see most people do in a 1 item from go situation, you're going to skip left side no matter what, especially since you've got Pyramid Fairy in front of you. You've got 3 pendant dungeons you haven't touched. You've got a crystal dungeon that can't have what you're looking for but doesn't have much anyway. There's more items in front of you than there are on the left side of Swamp.
So Walter has a bit of an advantage here because he is locked out of Pyramid Fairy, he is locked out of tablet checks, he is doing Spike Cave, but what's he going to do after Spike Cave? Desert and Ice?
I wouldn't be surprised to see Walter go ahead and jump into ice. With that fire rod being so early, it might be something that he feels like is waiting for him to go into, especially with the... It's been in logic for quite some time here, and also very easy to clear out.
Where is he going? He's doing this portal south of Link's house. Pyramid Ledge?
Could be Pyramid to Catfish here.
Oh yeah, we haven't even seen Catfish.
At this point, you have to feel like you're going to try to make some of these out of the way checks that your opponent may not even do at all. And other than diving independent dungeons, Walter doesn't have a lot left to look at too. So he's going to start poking around at the few things that are easier to get to, available, and something to witness as he goes through here. And here goes Homemade Beer with that left side skip. Exactly what the doctor ordered. Let's see if he sticks to it when he finishes up Argus here.
Unlike Homemade Beer, who felt that, 12 hearts blue mail might not be enough, better get red mail, Walter feels that 14 hearts blue mail is enough to not get red mail.
See a little bit of discussion and chat about what Walter's doing. If he goes up to Catfish, he can still very well go into ice. A mirror back and then a swim up from that whirlpool, and he'll be right at the doorstep.
Which is convenient routing. We've seen the runners be very knowledgeable about the whirlpools.
Alright, so we're going to see Argus for Homemade Beer now. And 10 arrows from... You're not even full on arrows. You say no to arrows. Oh no. We're going to float away from the whirlpool here. Probably just... I imagine this is just kind of a time save move. Except it's not. Where are you going,
to Link's
Walter?
House.
Oh, we haven't seen
Oh, he
either
never
runner check
did.
the shovel yet.
Right.
Yeah. And what do you think is going to be on the shovel here? A sword, half magic?
I think Beer did the shovel, didn't he?
Oh, he did, didn't he?
It was junk.
It was no good. So Walter's going to take this check and go, meh.
And he's doing desert.
It sure looks that way, doesn't it? And desert's a pretty easy dungeon to go ahead, and if you get 2 items in the front, you're not worried about landmo unless you're starting to think this might be a pet seed. And I really hope Walter doesn't think this might be a pet seed.
And now Beer is off to do Pyramid Fairy.
Yeah, and the most common route you might see runners take coming up from Swamp to Pyramid Fairy is to run straight over to Pod.
Yeah, it does put you in the right place. Of course, he could do Catfish. And he has the Aga Portal, so you can do this the way the game intended you to.
And this could actually save him a little bit of time, as Walter has not yet done Castle Towers, so he won't have this portal if he actually ends up doing this play later on. Of course, also, as soon as he finds out where Ether is, he's not going to need to do this play later on, and there's the big key to Desert.
Yeah, very nice hookshot strats by Homemade Beer to really take advantage of being able to run with the bomb. Well, there's your half magic.
And nothing of any interest whatsoever sitting in the Pyramid Fairy checks. And we're going to see the hook shot, the run, and he's leaning north, and he's going to Catfish.
Well, maybe Pod next. And
I'd be worried about the very same that Walter did, and we might see him go ahead and mirror back to go into ice here, because it's the most convenient time to do it. We also haven't seen him turn in the mushroom for his heart container, so he'll do that now.
Yeah, Beer, it's faster to mirror bonk. That's why you put the mirror specifically there.
Walter is going to make the run to Lanmo for that second item here.
I mean, you're here. You only got one item for all your clearing of desert. You might as well.
And something else that plays into Walter's decision-making here. If he starts to feel like this might be a pedestal seed, you might see him go back to pod and knock out Helmasaur. You might see him turn in that green pendant. With the book being locked by Ether on the Lumberjack ledge, he will not be able to read the pedestal, and he will not know that it's not the answer. Possibly until it's too late.
Yeah, this is just a crazy seed with each runner last locating a different medallion. So Lanmo has a rupee hoard. But, oh yeah, you're right. Looks like Beer's doing ice.
Oh boy, and we're going to have both runners. One item from Go Mode, digging around at Pendant Dungeons. We might actually see Walter join him in ice here. Well, that's a Sank start.
Oh!
Oh! Could this be... No, we've already seen King... What are we thinking? What are we thinking, Walter?
This could be Lumberjack check. He's got the flute out, though.
Flute. He is running north.
Oh, yep.
This is going to put Walter in no mode, and it's going to give him the advantage for the rest of the run.
Oh, yes. Clock is ticking. It's going to take him a while, but I think if Beer's doing a full clear of ice by the time he then full clears pod, it's Walter's advantage.
Yeah, and Walter does have that mire up on Homemade Beer right now. So not only is Walter a mire behind, but he has to go through most of pod to pick up that Bombos medallion in the first place. So I would say advantage Walter here, hands down.
Yeah, and it's not a God mire by any means, though Beer might be spared. We've already gotten 2 items out of Ice Palace.
And provided he decides that pod is a more intriguing play than Desert, we might see this race tighten up quite a bit more than it already looks to be. All right, I was waiting for the 3 items to be in the first 3 checks we make in ice, and the game does that sometimes. You're just like, okay, you saved me about 2 minutes. Thanks, game.
Okay, wow. 3rd item out.
Well, okay, 3 out of 4 ain't bad, and that's gonna.
Hey, we know there are good safeties in Pendant Dungeons. We got the Half Magic and Desert, the Butter Sword and Ice.
If you're a fan of Swirly Cornblue and you want him to go straight to 5, he does. And we're going to see pod.
This could be close. Still Walter's advantage, but it's going to be reasonably close.
Yeah, the worst thing right now for Beer is that he still has to go through and find that big key to Mire. And actually, he does. This could actually even out a little bit, depending on how long it takes for Beer to go to the back of pod. Just because Turtle Rock, no matter what situation it's in, is not a quick dungeon to clean up.
No, and I didn't notice the key layout in there.
It showed God if you steal the key.
Okay, so if Walter steals the key, he can skip Laser Bridge, so that's something for him.
Yeah, and chat pointing out the typical traditional route for Palace of Darkness here is going to come back to bite Homemade Beer. He will probably do the big chest last prior to going to Helma. Of course, Helma not on the table for our runners here, because especially in this case with Bombos being the go mode that Homemade Beer needs.
I mean, so far Beer's doing what he has to do. An interesting God play would be if he decided to go directly to the back from here. But Walter is on to Aga.
A question from chat. Drossi, have we seen Morph Ball yet?
Aren't they behind Ridley?
Morph Ball are behind Ridley. And expected to go out of bounds to get it. Good luck, Nito. It's not Gold Chorizo I'm hearing. Hi, everybody. We're playing the wrong game for that kind of conversation. This is a Link to the Past Randomizer League. It's Season 4. It's Week 6. Playoff stakes are on the line here for both teams. If Swirly Coin Brewing takes this win today, they have all but cemented their chances of making top 3 in their division. NewSwagaJackson with that awkward 16. A win would greatly help their chances of making the top 3. And they're talking about playoffs as well.
Top 4.
Top 4. Ooh, I can do math. 4 comes after 3, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
But the team in between them who's also vying for a spot in there is Shacktul's Digging Game, who was a conference finalist last season. So there's some formidable teams in this division.
Don't sleep on this entire division. The Kakariko division has a history of being a death group. And this year, no exception. Between Skull Kids, Mogliacci, the 2 teams we have here, and Shacktul's Digging Game, we have some really talented runners putting up their stuff week in, week out. Do you think maybe Homemade Beer does a... Well, he doesn't have the big key. Because the big key's in the Rippy Basement. This would be a great time to hammer him up if he had the big key.
Yeah, well, the layout doesn't allow for it.
He does pick up his silvers, which will make the rest of his game, you know, more free than it already was with the gold sword.
Yeah, given the layout, you're basically not going to Vitreous without silvers.
All right, Walter is going to pick up his Ether Medallion here. That will put him in full go mode with a Turtle Rock splitting him between where he's at now and where he'd like to be. And where he'd like to be is climbing Ganon's Tower. And that will come very shortly here, so everybody just hold on tight.
And Beer is apparently not counting at this point because he did a key for a key in Harmless Hellway, and if he had been counting, he should have known that.
Yeah, with 5 keys in front and the big key where it was, that had to be a key for a key every single time. Because in the logic that we have right now in version 31, it doesn't matter which patch you're playing, a key cannot appear in Dark Maze. But that is also go mode for Homemade Beer at 1:20:30. So both runners here within less than half a minute of each other are 1 dungeon from clearing up the seed.
And so now the question is, Walter doing the long Turtle Rock versus Homemade Beer having to get big key out of map chest.
I know it sounds cliche, Drossi, but I feel like this could rubber band right back together, and we're talking about GT routing and execution.
You mean it's going to come down to whoever beats Ganon first?
Really? I thought it was whoever got to the Triforce first.
That too. You can always take a fall after beating Ganon.
You could also, just sit on the bridge and just enjoy the silence and have a great, have a cup of tea, read a book, and wait for your opponent to be ready to done. And we see the wrong medallion use from Walter. Misadventures a quick swap. It does happen. I am known from time to time to shoot an arrow before I mirror out of somewhere.
Well, I think it was some sort of telepathic sympathy, like he knew Homemade Beer was using bombos, so he wanted to use bombos too.
A gentleman's agreement. If I ESP that you're using medallion, I'll use it as well. Walter does have one small advantage. It really isn't much of an advantage with that gold sword and Homemade Beer's quarter. He does have half magic, which makes his magic conservation efforts a little bit more in vain. Which case, Beer not having it, he's going to be a little bit more conscious about how much magic he has. He does, however, have an extra potion in hand. So, okay. I would say this is pretty even with the exception of, well, just how long it takes for us to get through our last dungeon each. And Beer also having a mountain climb. Gotta mention that. That takes time as well.
Yeah, and Beer does need to get a magic refill if he wants to do spooky.
Luckily, there is that full magic right before you go into the basement, so that'll be something he could take advantage of. Or, he could use
your green potion, because he's going to need...
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say he's going to need to light the torches in the next room.
Yeah, and that'll tell him that the big key is not over here. It's on the right side. Or it is over here, and you need to go get your small key from the right side to tell you that, because key logic can do a few funny things in Misery Mire. Not quite as bad as Palace of Darkness, but nonetheless.
Okay, he's not going for cutscene now, and then the question is, does he keep to that and do map chest?
I think you have to, because this is an item. So now you door state extension. Now you door state extension.
Yeah, I was hoping for that
go
too.
To
I'm a bit
chest.
surprised.
Okay. I was to say, you go to cutscene beer, I'm going to be very mad at you. He is going to burn this key, however, which means he'll have to go the long way around to Vitreous. But with this big key, that's going to put him in the situation where he just goes straight to Vidi and has a time with the eyeball boss. Chat is being quite loud, well, at least a couple people in chat are being quite loud about not seeing Fishbone Room, and please don't pull out a bottle right as you're entering a door state. Please do not accidentally YBA in an MMG race. I would hate to see somebody soft lock, or rather hard lock as a result of that. I've personally done it myself. I had half a heart going up Castle Tower, whipped out a red potion, went into the doorway, and the game had no idea where to put me. So that's a terrible way to lose a lot of progress. All right, Walter, recognizing the God TR layout, he's not going to have to touch Laser Bridge at all with the stolen Poke Key here. Said Homemade Beer does have Spooky set up, so he's got that going for him as well. We're going to approach the boss at relatively the same time, Drossi.
Yeah, I think Homemade Beer will do his fight first, but he also has to climb the mountain afterwards, whereas Walter's right there and can run over to GT.
Everybody pull out your stopwatch, because I'm expecting this to be a photo finish going to GT here. We might see our runners as much as 20 seconds behind each other.
It'll really depend on basement routing, as you said earlier.
Oh yeah. Where that big key is, and the same route is going to result in whoever's ahead stays ahead. Unless something happens in Gauntlet.
So that is Homemade Beer's 7th crystal. We see numbers in chat. Ceruvian, would you like to explain the numbers that are randomly appearing in chat here?
Well, everybody here is guessing as to where that big key to Ganon's Tower lies, because there are 22 checks between the lobby level and the basement that are accessible by our two runners. You can't climb without the big key, and it's a matter of routing and figuring out what the keys say in Ganon's Tower to find that big key, to get up the tower, to bash Aghanim in one last time and have a date with the big pig.
And try next down, Walter grabs his 7th crystal.
And Walter's got this cutscene to go through. This is actually going to be really close.
Yeah, Homemade Beer remembers. I was just going to say, if you've already opened TR Portal, it is faster to go this way, assuming you don't get dead rocked up at the top.
Walter giving back a few seconds there to get his hook speed up and running. But he's going to get to GT first, so we will use Walter's number for the GT Big Key guessing game. Last few seconds here to get a guess in. 1 to 22, everybody. Where do you think that key is hiding today?
So how far apart are they? 15 seconds-ish? Let's see Walter's entry time.
I have Walter entering at 1:27, 21, maybe 22.
Yeah, the full black was at 22. Small key and Hope Room, gonna go right.
You almost have to, right? Nice!
Wow, swag.
That is some swaggy tech right there. And Beer's going left. We've got diversions in GT, everybody. Exactly what we all wanted to see. And the big key's on the door! And just like that, the few second advantage for Walter 4 falls to the big key being on the torch. Walter has a gauntlet between him and Ganon right now.
You mean Beer has a gauntlet between him and Ganon? Because
Yes.
Walter still has to get the big key off the torch.
That's true.
At least Boots were nice and early.
Oh, Boots were so early on the seed. They were super nice. Boots and Hera Basement, please. Give me that every time I'm playing. All right,
and
this
hey,
is
if
good
somehow
news.
you hadn't got them, they'd be in the first place you looked coming out of GT.
That's true indeed. Because if you haven't touched Hera to this point because it's a pendant, it's probably going to be the first place you go. Let's see if Walter picks up this key on the... Nope, he's going straight back up the stairs. So no key advantage for Walter. Both runners are going to have to pick up the key in Mini Helma Room. Congratulations, anybody who said left side, and anybody who said 8. 8 being the torch spot for the right side first, going Hope, Group to Compass to Torch. A lot of arrows in the holster of Walter right now. Plenty of ammo to work with moving forward here. Gold Sword for Homemade Beer is going to give him a free 1-1 on Ganon. So even if something goes horribly awry, that's in his quarter as well.
And Beer currently has wooden arrows selected, unless something's weird with the icon on. Oh, now he has silvers. Okay, I guess he just had to switch to bow to activate them.
So that's something you might see runners do if they're, at this point we have a shield, we have a lot of hearts, we have a lot of rupees. That's what you might do as a lag reduction strat, because the Ancilla overload that comes from silvers can really add a lot of lag to your game.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit surprised that Beer was trying so hard with silvers when he has a butter sword. But the runners are just separated by a gauntlet, really. Certainly within a Ganon fall.
Yeah, and the gauntlet that we're separated by isn't a full gauntlet either, as you see Walter going through Gauntlet 4, about to hit Gauntlet 5. Still has some shots with that half magic fire rod that he can take advantage of here on Landmo, but he also is only 5 arrows short of full quiver.
And Beer took a fall and had to redo that room. That eats up 5 seconds or so.
Yeah, the RNG patterns of the guards in that room can be rather trollish, if they want to be. Any clink can add all kinds of time to your run.
And both of them got a 2-cycle Landmo, so no one gains or loses time there. Ooh. That was close for Beer.
Yeah, luckily having that lamp to kind of supplement what he needed to get through this room. And that does mean that Walter is only a couple rooms behind here. This is still as close as it looked like when we came in.
Just in the other direction.
And we're going to see Beer with a fairy still in a bottle from earlier is going to go ahead and continue on here with 7 hearts. Really? Oh. And as soon as I say anything at all, Moldborn says, I'm going to be the great equalizer. Watch out, folks, as the last 2 weeks of the season come upon us here, the league in both levels. Walter has the same issue. Walter was literally very close to running out of magic, even with that lamp out. Yeah, watch out here. The last 2 weeks of the season come upon us. Anybody can play spoiler. Anybody can change up a division. A win anywhere can shake up these standings. A win here for Swirly Coin Brewing, however, all but assures them a shot at the top 4.
Yeah, especially because NewSwaga is their competition, and if they can assure themselves a better standing than NewSwaga, that would do it for them. If Homemade Beer holds on and wins, NewSwaga would move to 5-5-1. So it would still be barely possible if they win the second match and win out, and Swirly Coin loses out for Swirly Coin to not make the playoffs, but the ball would be in Swirly Coin's court. The runners are separated by just an Aga 2 fight. Walter entering the room as homemade beer gets picked up by the duck, which has no business in the dark world, considering it never otherwise appears in the dark world.
A little bit out of sync for Walter here, and a couple of these patterns not playing very nice for him. And when I say out of sync, I mean out of sync. So we get to play geometry for real now. Very nice triage of this fight for Walter.
At a diagonal, too.
Beautifully well kept up for Walter. I love seeing people go on the angles and get those doubles that you might not see actually happen until they land.
Chat pointing out that beer has a practically guaranteed 1-1 for the first 2 phases of Ganon. Walter, it's certainly doable, but a bit tougher. You have to be right on the mark for it.
Yeah, that Gold Sword pretty much assures you a 1-1 cycle of the first 2 phases again. And however, Temperate Sword done optimally is no slower. So we might see Walter kind of pinch this up a little bit. And any trip up in this final phase here with the silvers from either runner could actually decide this race.
And Walter does get the 1 cycle first phase.
Yeah, and this is going to be a free 1-1 for Walter after getting that first phase, just because Ganon's in a pretty nice spot. Hookshot for a little invuln. Already in phase 3. Beer has the first silver into Ganon and is a little out of position, but setting up for that triple. Let's see it. Let's see it, homemade beer. Oh, isn't that a beautiful thing?
Wow.
That is a beautiful thing.
Get your GGs in chat.
Throw them out there for Swirly, Coin Brewing, and homemade beer. Homemade beer finishing with an official time on race time of 1:34.41. GG beer.
And Walter sees the dot done and takes a Ganon fall. So
oh, that is very unfortunate. And he's going to finish this out. And this is more than just, well, race is over. You might not even be looking at race time. You might still feel like this is close. And you know what? No matter what the circumstance, you only have Ganon to go. You gotta finish it out, right? Still, no matter what happened here at the very end of this race, give a huge shout out to these 2 runners. Homemade Beer, Walter the 4th. Absolutely phenomenal play on this seed. Despite all of the diversions that we had, oh man, there were lots of things to love on this seed from these 2 players. And speaking of, I believe that is Homemade Beer sitting in chat with us.
Hello. I'm watching the end of this fight here.
It is a lot closer than it looks.
Walter is once again on phase 3 here.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yes, we do say once again, as he did take a fall in phase 4 in his first attempt. It was a lot closer than it looks.
Yeah. Oh, man, that felt bad. That was a scary, really scary race.
Yeah, he was hitting phase 4 as you dot dunned. That's how close it was.
Wow, okay.
And you actually won because you went left first in GT. He went right. There was a small key in Hope Room, so he continued to Compass Room, and that was the time it took for you to take the lead.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I was worried about at the end when I saw he wasn't done, was just, like, don't do the wrong route in GT, but there's no wrong route. There's no right route. There's just the route you take.
Yeah.
So that does do it for Walter.
Let's see some GGs for him as well, yeah. And Walter will stop the clock on race time with a 1:36.56. Again, GG. Swirly Coin Brewing, NewSwagaJackson. Lots to love about this seed, lots to hate about this seed. Let's wait for him to come in here, and we'll ask you guys a few questions.
And it's hard to remember given how different your go modes were, but if you watch this back, you guys were so practically in sync in like Thieves Town, Village of Outcasts, heading south from there, until you diverged after getting the shovel.
Wow, okay.
So there's a solid 5+ minutes where you guys are just doing exactly the same things, and then you did totally different stuff after the shovel. But yeah, let's see if we can get Walter in here.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Mr. Walter has joined us, and we have both runners in the booth here. GG, guys.
Yeah, GG's.
GG's, dude. That was a really nerve-wracking race. Like after, like I felt pretty good about the early game. I got early boots. I had a nice route to kind of full clear the light world, and was pretty happy with that. And then after Village of Outcasts, there wasn't really anything. So as soon as I only went up to Hera the first time. You probably did the same, I'm guessing, because of the glove and hammer.
Yeah.
So yeah. So then when I finally went up to Death Mountain and confirmed Ether, because I don't remember when I think I checked it before. I actually don't remember when I checked it now.
I should have checked it after Bone Crocs. I normally do. I don't know. I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, that's what the big difference was. Is you did Bonk Rocks, got your Moon Pearl, and kept on going, and then Walter got his Moon Pearl and fluted immediately out of Bonk Rocks. But then he turned it around, and he was in pod before Eastern, so he had bombs for quite some time before you did.
Yeah, with the I felt like Kane and Bombos was like the only out of locations in this one, so I felt pretty good at getting both of those early. But then like towards the later end of the game, I was gonna check Lumberjack before climbing Death Mountain, but then I don't know, I just fluted up instead because it's kind of awkward to flute and check the Lumberjack, and then after that I just completely forgot about it.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thoughts when after Skullwoods when I found Kane. I'm like, that's in a pretty terrible spot, but it didn't really block anything. Progression wise, it just obviously you need it. And so like when I found Ether, like I of course I went, I'm like, oh, I need Bombos, so I'm just gonna go all in on Skullwoods and TR are both Fire Rod locked, therefore it has to be Pyramid Fairy, right? And so I never went to pod, never got the lamp until like super late and all these things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But of course it was like nothing. I think it was like 5 rupees and 3 palms.
I was really to see you hard commit to Turtle Rock as you did, Beer. Was there anything besides, I know that Ether is on Lumberjack, and hopefully Walter doesn't know it's there? Anything other than that might have played into that?
It was mainly just kind of for the fire-locked fire memes. I wanted Fire Rod to block Bombos, which logically it did, of course. But I wanted it to kind of hard lock. So I'm like, okay, it's probably either in TR, because it wasn't in Skullwoods, or it's in Pyramid Fairy, so I'm just going to take anything I find in TR and roll with it. And of course the book was there, which led to nothing really except a wasted time checking ped. Before I had touched any pendant dungeon, though, so I felt better about knowing I didn't have to beat any pendants. And at least Ice Palace items were like really nice.
Yeah, we thought you had lost for sure when you went in there, and then all the items came up right away, and you didn't have to do half the dungeon.
Yeah, so that was mainly my play. Just like my thoughts actually were that Lamp was going to be in Swamp, and then you're supposed to like go into Swamp and get your Lamp to do Aga to do all the other stuff. But of course, it was in pod. Everything was in pod this seed. It was weird.
Oh yeah, so it was interesting. You cleared out Ice for us, and Walter cleared out Desert for us. So between the two, we saw both Buttersword and Half Magic.
Oh, is that Half Magic was in Desert?
Half Magic was on the right side of Desert, yes.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
But I did want to ask both of you your Swamp strategies, because that also wound up making a difference. Walter, you went back in for left side. Beer, you didn't. Can you each talk about that?
Yeah, so the position I was in when I was in Swamp, I had not like really touched almost anything at Death Mountain yet, and I knew I was going to go up there. If I had 2 of the medallions, so it was kind of likely I could go in, and if that was the case, all I was missing was Ice Rod, so like clearing out Swamp would be like the last place for me to not like be able to save my portal anymore. So it was just like a safeguard, I guess.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Wait, yeah, Ice Rod was up there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Ice Rod was in Paradox 5.
I was planning to do Turtle Rock before Lightside Dark, or like Lightside Death Mountain, and then if like there was no Ice Rod in Turtle Rock, I could just jump out and do all of that. But no medallion makes it hard.
Yeah.
Look at those similar collection rates for all the divergence.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were really, we were talking about frames, if not seconds, apart for a lot of the early parts of the seed, and it really just kind of went out of any. You were synced up for most of this until you split ways at Hype Cave. That's really where things changed up a little bit for you two.
Yeah, I know I went to get the shovel because I knew that I could flute afterwards and do stuff, but I don't.
Yeah, you both got the shovel and then you diverged.
Oh, okay.
I think that's
okay.
when Walter went to pod, actually.
Yeah, it is. He did pod, and he got his silvers, his lamp, and his bombos. And then immediately following that, clean up Eastern. You went straight to Eastern beer. Was there... That's something that I kind of tilted my head at a little bit. Usually you do pod and Eastern as a combination when you have everything to clear the pendant dungeon in pod, but a mirror to go back to Eastern if nothing happens to be in there. Do you want to give us a little thought as to what might be going through your head at that point?
Yeah, at the time, I think I had a couple clearable crystals. I think most runners would agree that doing swamp as late as possible is usually what you want to do if you can help it. So I was thinking I could go to swamp or Eastern at that point. I don't want to go to swamp.
Yeah, we noticed you definitely holding off on swamp and doing all the overworld checks first.
Yeah, both of you gave a wide berth to Swamp Palace for quite some time. Then Walter just bit the bullet and went back in, cleaned up left side, and we found out Swamp doesn't really have anything for us here. That was a very go modable swamp on this seed. Unfortunately, each of you being a medallion from go mode, and that medallion could be quite literally anywhere, you kind of had to, take the dive into swamp at some point.
Yeah, medallion hunts are actually probably my least favorite thing. Ice rod hunts are what they are; they happen a lot, but medallion hunts feel worse somehow. I don't know. But yeah, so I figured, okay, just do crystals until think a bit, get some time. If you find it there, you're done. And otherwise you have time to think about what your next steps actually are, because Eastern's a pretty linear dungeon. And so when I ended up actually going into swamp, I really wanted to go mode it straight to Pyramid Fairy, but I thought that would be actually just insane, actually insane. So I'm okay, well, I'm gonna just do everything but left side. And I committed before I even went in. I committed to not doing left side.
Yeah, one item from Go, I don't think anyone would really be doing left side here unless you are willing to make that spicy gamble that what you need is sitting over there. And of course, this seed we saw, it didn't happen. You'd probably make that play more times than not, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, specifically in this case, because I had so much other stuff I wanted to... really, I wanted to check Pyramid Fairy before Swamp, but it's bad routing and it's inefficient to do it that way, so I thought, just do Swamp first, and then if it's there, you're done, and if not, you have a plan,
Yeah, Swamp to Fairy to Pod is something we were calling for, and you didn't disappoint too much. I don't remember what you did after Pyramid Fairy, but I think I recall you mirroring out and fluting away.
I went to Catfish and then Ice Palace.
Yeah, Catfish to Ice. Walter, what made you steer away from Ice Palace when you were at Catfish?
I was planning on potentially going into Ice Palace, but that was kind of the moment I remembered I had not checked Lumberjack yet. But it was kind of awkward to use Flute there, so I just went Desert first instead, and then saved and quit after Desert before committing into Ice.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I was pretty much I don't know. I was pretty nervous the whole race. So I know Walter's really good, so I wasn't there's no free wins in League, right? Everyone's tough opponents. So
especially up here at the Invitational level, everyone that's playing up here has something to show and something to prove. And you two definitely showed it on this seed. There's a ton to love, especially this division being as tight as it is. Homemade Beer, your team's probably really happy to take the win here. You two have another matchup later this week that could tighten up this Kakariko division even more. Want to shed some light on that one?
Yeah, so tomorrow at 9 Eastern, Magnificent's playing J-Jo. So, yeah, it always obviously feels good to win, but we're pretty close. I think one more win gives us guaranteed playoffs, and I don't think we were necessarily expecting it. We kind of came in and just wanted to perform well and have fun playing League with people and see how we do. And so we're gonna have to play some more, practice a bit up, and see if we can't get there. But then we have to face the Mogliacci in week 7, so that's pretty scary there, I think.
Which is probably why you want to clinch this week.
Yeah, they're, I think, second place now in the division, but they haven't played any games yet this week, I believe. So.
Yeah, I'd say at this point, we're all at the take your wins when they can come, and you figure out the rest later if you have to.
Yeah, definitely, and it's this division's been pretty crazy with basically a 5-way tie for 6-way tie or something at one point. And the only real thing that changed anything was the tie in spoiler week with NewSwagaJackson and I forgot now.
Waffle House,
yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed also that both of your teams split with Shacktool's digging game, and of course Shacktool is the team kind of between you. They haven't played any of their matches either, but it's basically at this point the three of you competing for 2 playoff spots, so you're very evenly matched.
Yeah, very much.
I wouldn't be surprised to see this be a split tomorrow too.
I would be cool with that.
Well, that's just the nature of just how much, even at the top, there's so much parity. Any seed can go any which way in this Invitational League, especially a division this tight. We saw how one check could have derailed the seed for both players. And we saw how close it got at the very end. That can happen at any given time.
Yeah, definitely rando gonna rando, right?
Yeah, it's been fun so far in League and should be a good finish with the rest of this week, and then next week with the Randomizer co-op is kind of fun.
So we should clear out of here momentarily. There's a race starting on this channel in 15 minutes, actually. Zelda 1 Randomizer, if you want to see what the original Zelda looks like when it's randomized. Written by Fred Coughlin, who's also an Invitational League player, though in a different division. But yeah. So any last thoughts from our runners then?
Just GG's again. That was a fun race. I think that was our first time racing, so it was really cool to get to race.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, GG's, and thanks for doing the commentary and tracking.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Great.
GG's again. Please give both our runners a follow. Thanks again to Jinxie Girl, our amazing tracker, wrestling with a very laggy tracking app today. And Zeruvian, thank you for letting me twist your arm into this.
Please don't twist my arm so hard next time. I joke. It's been a lot of fun. I got to see 2 really good players give us a show today, and we get to see these 2 teams face off again tomorrow. And again, what's coming up to be a very tight Kakariko division. So stay tuned. Lots of league action going on here on SpeedGaming, and Open League too, Drossi.
Yeah, and actually one match we should give a shout out to is that the aforementioned Mogliacci, who are second in this division, also looking to clinch a spot, are facing the Immortals, who are looking to try to avoid relegation. And that's going to be right here at 11:10 tonight. So stick around on SpeedGaming 2 for some Zelda 1 rando, followed by more league matches.